I always have a hard time on one monitor with the Zoom controls. They seem to always take up the one spot where I want to have information be. All right. So let me give you a little background story about why we started using Lucid at the university level where I teach. We were looking for ways post-COVID where we could really work on teamwork activities that was related to our current classwork. We had a great project. However, it was very in-seat, very paper-based. And as we kind of hit that COVID time, we were looking for ways to keep the content from that project, keep the core learning objectives from that project, but create a way that we could do it digitally, and not lose that kind of tactile, hands-on activity that went along with it. So the first thing that we really focused on was redesigning it. We didn't want to just kind of lean into all the great technology features, but we really wanted to think really thoroughly on how to structure it and how to use the most lucid tools to make it the most robust for us. So what we did is it was a 14-page packet that the students worked through. They had handwritten responses. We had to hand grade them. The submissions often would be inconsistent because we didn't have the best instructions laid out. And we had very limited insight into who was doing what. This wasn't an individual project, it was a group project. So identifying how much each student was participating was really important to us. So we kind of lined those up and thought these are the areas that we really need to re-engineer or rethink. And as we went through that, what we decided to do, and I'm going to switch my share screen. I wish Zoom had the ability to share two screens at once, but let me share my other screen as well. Okay, let's see if you're seeing that screen. Perfect. So what we really wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that for each tab, the student could look at one particular part of that document or of that packet that we had. So we have many different tabs that we've utilized for the students to work through in order. On each tab, we really focused on having a read first section where we have the goal, why we're doing it, how they apply it to their potential career life. We have important information about the rubric and that we're going to be checking for participation. We use jump links so that we always have a table of contents. We also leaned into very graphically kind of exploring and showing students how to move through the workbook. So for example, on this tab, when I zoom way out, you can see that it's a very large canvas that we're using. But you can also see that there's a very clear Start Here button in which it talks through the instructions that they're going to need to know. Then a next button symbol or icon that talks them to kind of the collaborative area that they're going to be working on. And then an end or a stop point. So the students know to stop at that point. We integrated this with our learning management system so that when the students are completed with one tab in the project or one portion of it, they just submit their hyperlink, their URL to our learning management system, which then just gives me a notification that they're ready for me to look at the Lucid document. We also really lean on rubrics. So we do have a rubric that we use in our learning management system to grade these. We leave feedback in both the rubric, but we also leave feedback a lot of times within the document using kind of that feedback loop where we can reach out to students, give them comments, and they can reply back to those comments. We want to make sure that this is two-way communication, not just the groups participating, but also the faculty relating and working with the groups. So I really like to make sure that I have a way to close that feedback loop as many times as possible. We want to make sure that we're not grading on technicalities, but that we are grading on the core concepts that we want to help them with. Some things that I want to point out that were Lucid kind of facts, features, really important things that we looked at and that we use. So for one of them, we use the focus constraint so that students are only able to see a particular amount of the canvas. A lot of times we've used it where the canvas is unlimited, but for this one, we really focus them in. This is the first time that they're using Lucid, and we wanted them not to get lost, but to really just kind of focus in on the work. Another thing that we've used is we strategically lock a lot of things. For example, if I click on this success factor post-it note, you'll notice that there's yellow around the edges. I've locked it so that this can be moved and the students will use it, but I've locked it so that the font stays the same. I've locked it so that they can't delete it. With the instructions, I have it locked all the way down in red, so they can't move it, they can't change it. It stays in place for them. So in using a combination of things being locked and unlocked, I can control what they're able to move and what will stay the same, almost like a template. And there's many other documents that we use the same type of idea. So here we have an activity, a swim lane document, where it is drag and drop. So each activity already has the process step that's taking place. They're able to drag it into the right column where it needs to go. But because we want them to understand that the process steps don't change, they stay in the same order and they use the same language, they're not able to edit anything about that. They're only able to, and if I pull another step here, they're able to create the lines to connect the steps. So again, we've been really conscious about what we allow the students to make changes to and which are more template items. We also used a lot of drag and drop learning. So in the past, students did this by hand on paper, and they were creating those process steps, writing in what the process step was, drawing the square or the diamond shape. And there was a lot of inconsistencies, and it was really hard to grade. And on top of that, it was really hard for us to decide which group member was really working on it. That was a very easy task that wanted to become individual, where one individual did all the work in the hand drawing. But when we moved it to a drag and drop exercise, now they're focused more on what the process is by dragging and dropping and then connecting things with arrows, as opposed to the details of, are my lines straight? Is this box as square as possible? Things that don't necessarily add to the learning of that basic concept. We really want them to learn. Another thing that we've done, and I'm going to move over to another tab. Here we have our order calendar, another step within this workbook. And these items are drag and drop, and each of these items has a name to it. So as I created these boxes, I gave them a unique name. I also then gave every box here as a date a unique name. Then we use a matching process where we're matching, does the name of this box match the name of this box? And that gives me a really easy way to see, did they put it on the right day? Are they doing the right matching? And I know there's lots of different ways to complete that kind of matching activity. This one just worked really well for us in the idea of using an order calendar. We also were really intentional when we thought about some of these drag and drop activities. our assignment doesn't change semester to semester. It's a very foundational project. So we wanted to make sure we could make small changes like changing the dates on the calendar, making it a different month without having to go through and redevelop the workbook every time. So as we were building the names of these boxes to make sure that they match, we were very intentional on how we named them so that it wasn't specific to a specific date on the calendar. It was more set up as week 1, day 3. So we really had to have some time to kind of think through that and make sure that we were naming things accurately. And then one other tool that we use that's been very helpful for our students is when they are creating documents. So here's an example of a document that they need to create. Again, they used to type all of that out by hand, and it was really hard to tell what student was participating. So in doing this now, all of these areas where you see text are text boxes. So let me show you what that looks like. Now students have things that are locked down. For example, they can't move this text box, but they can type in the company name into the text box. And we have things set up with masking. So when a student completes one of the documents, let's say this, what document is this? This quotation document, it automatically takes this mask off the next document. So they have to complete things correctly in order. And we do that by having things masked. And then the best tool that we've really found to be extremely helpful to us is to use the option of, and again, let me move some things around in Zoom here. And one more thing I have to move. We are always going into the show revision history. So in the show revision history, we're looking to make sure that every group member who is working on this workbook together has participated. And I'm looking to see, is it equal? When I kind of look at that version, I can say, okay, this person wasn't in class because I took attendance, but now I look back at this project and I see that they deleted out all the work that the people did while they were in class. And I'm able then to address why that happened. And I'm able to go back to different versions to take it back to square one so they can have another attempt, or just take it back to where some overwriting may have taken place. So one more switching of my screens here. And I will go down to the next slide here. I listed out, and I know that these slides will be made available, but I listed out all of the tools that we've used in Lucid, and then why we use them, what kind of problem it took care of for us, and then what the result was, and how that really helped us take care of the issue that we were facing. And then last but not least, when we went back through and said, how does this project compare to the previous project? We were really able to see some sheer benefits that really benefited our instructors. We were able to grade things faster because we could grade as we went. The workbook is being submitted a little bit at a time as opposed to one large packet. So we could get feedback, we could see problems, we could individualize our teaching much better. The submissions were clearer, easier to read, right? Because we weren't trying to read handwriting. We actually have better student questions because now the questions are focused on the core concept that we need them to learn and not the little things here or there, such as, is this a straight enough line? Is this box the right size? Now they're asking questions about the process. And then last but not least, it gave us really good clarity into how the group has practiced together. And I want to just point out before I turn it over to Shira, is that I want to point out that the workbook style will be up as a template and it may not fit anything that you're teaching, but the overall concept of taking old-fashioned paper pencil projects, turning them into a Lucid workbook, and then allowing the groups to communicate, collaborate together, really is something that I see a lot of different projects could be transferred to, and a lot of different grade levels from, first grade all the way up to higher education can really see some benefits from making these strategic changes.